The Native Instruments Maschine Plus. 60 days in this thing, man, and I'm gonna let you guys know what I feel about it so far.
Bolo!
You know what? I ain't gonna lie, this thing actually looks really good. Like, I like how it looks. It looks really good. Sleek, too. Very sleek. Not that much stuff on here, though, but it's very sleek. All right, so the Maschine Plus. What do I feel about it after 60 days? It's not bad. Like, I'm actually kind of growing to like it a little bit. Like, it's actually not bad at all. Like, the workflow is not that bad. It sounds really good. You know what I'm saying? I like using this in standalone mode. When I export, beats come out sounding big. They sound nice. They sound full. Actually gotten pretty fast on this, and I'm learning more and more about it every single day. I just had to get like the beginning phase done, but once I figured that out, man, it's getting a lot better. But there's a few things that I think might need to be changed, but let's talk about the positives about this. Kind of hurt my arm a little bit. Need to work out. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so one thing that I really do like about this, I actually like the workflow. Okay, the workflow is actually very, very good, and it actually surprised me the more and more I started using it, how the workflow of actually building a track in here is really, really, really good. I actually like the ideas mode. It's actually pretty cool to how you can go ahead and just build from an idea and then turn it into a song. And then like this way is actually very cool using like a clips type of a thing that you would normally see in like Ableton and stuff like that. But this right here incorporates it basically just all inside of here, and it's actually pretty cool once you get to learn how to use it. This is super easy to build songs, to build ideas, to change parts. It is really nice, and it is very easy to use. Another thing on here, the onboard effects and everything on here are really good as well. Very straightforward. It's easy to add everything in here. Once you kind of get past the knobs and knowing where everything is at with the knobs and all that good stuff, this workflow is really cool with using effects and stuff like that. Now, one thing that I did not like about this is the internal instruments that come with this. Now, it comes with some good internal sounds in here. It comes with a lot of like synthesizer effects, leads, stuff like that. But like I've said before, this has really no natural sounds, like natural pianos, natural strings, natural bells, natural harps, natural brass instruments, stuff like that. This thing is missing with the internal sounds. Now, this thing does have contact. I actually went into my laptop, found some natural sounds, that I made my own personal contact banks, but I feel like you should not have to do it because Native Instruments has so many damn sounds. They have so many sounds that I don't understand why they didn't put a plethora of natural sounding instruments in their standalone unit. I don't get it. Is this supposed to be a standalone unit, or is this supposed to be hooked up to the laptop or to the computer? What are we doing here? So I think that they should incorporate more standalone sounds in here, but you know, I found a workaround to it, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys who have this has found workarounds to it as well. Or you just plugged it into the computer. Which leads me to talk about that. Now, this thing is actually very cool because, you know, I have the MPCX, and that's a standalone unit. I used that for years. And the thing about the MPCX is when you plug it into the computer, you still have to have power to actually use it when you want to use it in controller mode. This with controller mode is actually dope because once you plug this into the computer, it actually works kind of like the MK3 because it just uses the computer power. You don't need any plugs. You don't need nothing else. It just acts just like a MK3. So my thing is, if you want the best of both worlds, I would say get this instead of getting the MK3 because you can use this in standalone mode. Only problem is it doesn't come with a battery or nothing like that. So it has to be used with a plug. But if you want to use this with your computer and just take a computer out and use the computer power, you can just plug this up via USB and turn this on, and you won't need any other power supplies to use this. So that's kind of dope. But I do have something else I do want to talk about and address. You know, when you're actually using this actual instrument, there is a problem with exporting the songs and stuff out of here because this right here, you can only export in WAV or AIFF, which you guys know on previous videos. Yeah, I don't know nobody who uses AIFF, whatever. We use MP3 still, okay? We still use MP3, and I think this should have an MP3 export function in here. I don't know why. Don't know why they don't have it. That's the weirdest thing to me. I don't know. But yeah, let's move on. Now, the sampler. The sampler is really good, but there is two things that I really do not like about this. All right? Let's talk about the first one. Now, the sample. One thing I don't like about the sampler is they only give you a certain amount of numbers to where you can chop this if you're trying to do it in like a, automatic mode. So it's like 4, 8, 16, 32. It's nothing in between there. It's not like no 6 or 7 or 12 or 13. You can't do none of that. It's when you're doing like that little automatic like chopping mode, that's it. In other things like the MP, you can go ahead and set it to how many chops you want, because there's a lot of samples that are now being made, especially on Splice, which if you don't have Splice, you can go ahead and click that link in the description and get you a Splice subscription. Yeah, you can get that right now. Get you 7% off. But yeah, if you like using some Splice samples, some of the samples come in at 12 bars. And the only way you'll be able to chop those up is if you put it in a manual type of a situation on here, and that way you can go ahead and chop everything up, which I really don't understand that. I think that could be a simple code added in here to where you can chop this up and, chop it up in 12 bars, 13, 14, 15, whatever you want. I don't get it, but that's how they have it. I think it'll make it a lot better if they could switch that up. All right, so the next thing is something that I've talked about before, and that is time stretching. Now, I know this has a really good time stretching function when you put it in here as an audio sample, whatever, and it'll automatically determine the tempo and everything. You can just go ahead and time stretch stuff like that. But what I'm talking about is time stretching samples that we assign to pads. So say, for instance, we have an 8-bar loop. We can go ahead and assign the sample to these pads and we can chop it up and everything. I think we should be able to time stretch after we have the samples already assigned to the pads. You can do it on the MP, can't do it on here. You have to like figure out the time stretching first, like that, lock it in, and then you can go ahead and assign the pads and cut it up. I think you should be able to do that after you assign the samples to a pad. Now, I asked some people, hey, have anybody found workarounds with this? And nobody has found any workarounds, and I haven't heard from Native Instruments about any workarounds with that either, or how to actually do it. And I think that's just something that they just don't have in here. So I think they need to do it not just for this, for the actual hardware, they need to do it for the software as well, because that right there would be a game changer. Because as you guys know, some of these Splice samples, you got to go ahead and do your thing. So, that's if you have Splice. If you don't, you need to go ahead and click that link and get you some Splice samples. Discount. Use my code. One thing that I did actually previously talk about was actual, needing a touchscreen on there. The more and more I use it, it don't need no touchscreen. If you did have a touchscreen, it would be faster, but once you kind of learn everything on here, you don't really need it. Time to time, I do kind of get crossed up and I do touch the screen, but I'm like, oh, wait, there's no touchscreen. But I figure it out. It's not going to destroy your day if this doesn't have a touchscreen. Maybe the next unit might have one, maybe, if they do another upgrade to this. But as of right now, I don't think a touchscreen is pretty much needed. Now, last but not least, MIDI with external instruments. Very difficult. I'm still not really too good with it right now, and it seems like it's a lot of loops and hurdles to try to get MIDI to work with this with external instruments like my rolling keyboards and stuff like that. It's pretty much non-existent with that. They really need to work on that and to make that more easily and more streamlined to where we can use MIDI. I like to use the LSB, MSB banks to pick my sounds and stuff like that. This right here trying to do that, very hard. And I noticed that even using the Native Instruments keyboards with this is kind of weird too, because like I have the S61 that Native Instruments sent over along with this, and you can't even set your velocity controls on the Native Instruments keyboard while this is plugged into this. Now, you can do it when it's plugged in to the computer or the laptop, but when it's plugged in directly with this, some of the controls don't work. How do you have a Native Instruments keyboard with the Native Instruments product and the velocity controls don't work? And then sometimes you have problems even setting the keyboard up in here, even though they come from the same family of products. I don't get that. I went to forums and everything, and nobody can seem to figure that out. That is kind of strange, but they need to fix that. Come on now. Y'all need to make the stuff that y'all make be able to talk with each other without any problems. All right, but all in all, this is actually a very solid product. I've been using it a lot more. I've been taking it with me because I want to really learn this and I want to really like it, and I am kind of liking it. Now, is it beating out my MPC stuff right now? Absolutely not, but it's actually getting there. But I think with a few little things, this thing right here will be really dope. Now, plugged into computer, this thing is awesome because with the computer, I can use the clips function to set out my beats. I can use all that stuff. They got the clips and stuff in here, but it's not the same. But this is still a very solid product, okay? And if you got the bread to go ahead and get it, you can get it and you won't be disappointed after you learn how to use it. Because if you're coming from the MP side, the curve on here is much different. Much different. But 60 days in, I'm learning this more and more. It's actually pretty doggone dope, and I'm actually starting to like it, believe it or not. So yeah, the Maschine Plus, you might want to consider it. If you don't want to get it, the MK3 is just fine if you want to just use it with the computer, but it's just a few things that they might need to upgrade on here that will make this the next big thing. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned something from it, and like I always say, peace out.